Okay, good afternoon, class. So let's have the next set of practice exercises today. I have posted the video of our synchronous session yesterday, plus the video of the synchronous session of the other class, which was about basic exercises on logarithms. So there you learn the definition, logarithms, and how to compute logarithms without a calculator, and how to solve simple logarithmic equations. So for this session, um, we will have um, logarithmic equations. Yeah, logarithmic equations, but there are logarithmic equations that we will also be solving. Um, I will be doing that those types of logarithmic equations in the next class. Those will involve properties of logarithms, where you need them first before you can solve those logarithmic equation. But these ones can be solved by just converting them to the equivalent exponential form, as we shall see, no, in the first 3 or 4 or 5 items here. But some of them might require um, an understanding or a knowledge of the relation between logarithms and exponentials, as I have explained in the other video yesterday. We know, or perhaps you already know, that logarithms and exponentials are inverse operations. One undoes the other. So in other words here, if you look at the equation, I've also discussed exercises like this yesterday in the other section, but this may serve as actually some sort of a continuation of those exercises. So here, you'll be needing to apply the fact that ln e to the x, okay, let me write it down, ln e to the x equals x. And in the next one, e to the ln of x equals x. So what these two equations say, okay, is that the logarithm, the natural logarithm and the natural number, natural exponentials undo each other. So that if I apply I raise e to x, okay, and then the result, I take the logarithm of that to base e, I get back to x, the input number. Similarly, if I take the logarithm of x base e and then raise e to the result, I get back to x. It's like taking the square root of 4 and then you square it back, you just get back to 4, right? A square root and squaring sort of actually undo each other. So that's what also ln and e does to each other. So we can say that e is cancelled. The exponential e is cancelled by the logarithmic e. So that the left-hand side just becomes x squared plus x, the input, the exponent. So that actually this is just a quadratic equation. So we solve the quadratic equation the usual way. So I won't be really explaining. Let me just show the calculation. The solutions are -4, -5. So formally you write them using set notation. Any question on this one? Okay, and then also you need to know that e to the ln x is x, as I've already written a while ago. So for example, what is e to the ln of 2? If you use your calculator will just give you 2. What is ln e squared? That will also be 2. E and ln undo each other. Okay, but we'll apply this one here. Okay, so again, we just go back, okay, to the input number, so that the left hand side is just 2 over x minus 3. And then this is just your usual algebraic equation, which can be solved by cross multiplication, right? So x minus 3 times 1 equals 4. X equals 7. Okay? Any question? Can you hear me clearly? Am I choppy or okay lang, no? Medyo malayo, medyo nasa, ano kasi, sala yung Wi-Fi sa kwarto ko. Minsan, hindi ko nadala yung Wi-Fi extender ko dito. So, minsan ang hirap i-configure man. But, okay, let's try another one. So, this one is an equation that involves logarithms. So, technically, it's a logarithmic equation. Base E, natural logarithm. And though it might look, say, how do you say this? New to you or unfamiliar to you, yet by conversion, this will look something already familiar. One approach, as I've taught yesterday in the other section, is to convert the equation by using a dummy variable, like when people use dummy accounts, right? So here, it will only serve as some way to simplify the equation, and then eventually will help us revert back to the original equation or variable and thus solve the original variable. So let t be the commonly appearing expression there, a common expression, ln x. So let t be equal to ln x, so that we have the equation now in terms of t as t squared minus t equals 0. And then this looks just quadratic to you, right? Not something to be afraid of. So if you forget about this one and you just were given this one, right? That's not peanuts, right? Or piece of cake too. So you just solve by factorization and you get two possible values for t, namely 0 and 1. So then you look back at the original equation and then just revert t back to x by using this. So there are two values for t. So one ln is 0, so ln x equals 0. The other is 1, so ln x equals 1. Solve each. So how do you solve this? As I have taught yesterday, again in the other class, you can convert this by using the diagram I taught, where you make or draw arrows in either a clockwise or counterclockwise manner. So don't forget, this is base E, so let me put base E there. So what you do is start with the base and then proceed as follows. So you will have e to the 0 and then equals x, or just x equals e to the 0. Okay. And similarly here, e to the 1 equals x. Or simply x equals e to the 1. And thus, we have solved for x. X equals e to the 0. Anything raised to 0 is 1. And then this is just e. E is approximately 2.71828. Okay, you can repeat actually. 2.718281828. I think sa class niya yata ako inano yun, no? Binigay. So, solution set 1e. Okay, this one here. So, I'm trying to do as many as I can kasi nga may asynchronous tayo tapos hinahabol natin, ha. So, pero may times na binabagalan ko talaga. Yun lang, minsan hindi natin nagagawa yung mga ibang exercises na kukulangan. So let's look at this one. May seem like difficult, but with knowledge of what they call this, conversion from one form to another, like from logarithmic form to exponential form, this will actually be easily solved. So if we do that again, which I have taught yesterday again, where you convert a logarithmic form to exponential form by, again, using a diagram like this. So a to the y, a to the y, then the equal sign equals x. Okay? So we do that here, where we just forget how lengthy or complex the expression there looks. So it's just like some log 5 base x, di ba? Equals 0, or log 5 base z. So you do this, no? Ito yung z mo, kumbaga. So magiging z equals 5 to the 0, or 5 to the 0 equals z. So you can do that directly here. 5 to the 0 equals this. But I'll be writing this one first. So that will give us the following. Logarithm, okay, base 5 x squared minus 4 equals 5 to the 0. Tama? Ulitin ko, ha. 5 to the 0 equals this. Okay? So one less logarithm. And 5 to the 0, let me change that to 1. And this now is familiar. We've done something like this a while ago. Okay, here. Yung nagganon tayo, no? Isa na lang yung logarithm. So we do that one more time. So 5 to the 1 equals x squared minus 4, or x squared minus 4 equals 5. And so it's just now quadratic. X squared equals 9. Two possible answers, plus, minus 3. Solution set. So try this one. Similar lang. You can do this mentally. Do not expand or compute. Just give an answer. You can type your answer. Chat box, ha. Exponential yung sagot kasi sobrang laki nun kapag ginamitan ng calculator, hindi yata kaya. So something raised to the something. we just say present for here, or react with a, we call that thumbs up by on when I call your name. Okay. Jai Lopez, Morales, Rizal, Vistro, Pia, Mendoza, Isabel, Uy, Indy,
Yes,
Elmo, Besa, Inigo, Janela, Chua, Miguel Mendoza, Jayesh here, Bien, Montalier, Fitness School, Francine, Ira. Ira, are you here? Chanyong ko. Mayopi ba? Tama? Nabasa pa ha? Mayopi sa...
Majopi.
Yung J mo, J talaga. Okay, maho. Minsan H kasi ang pronounce niya. Sometimes right. Lahat ba natawag ko? Ito lang ba talaga nandiyan? Or tingnan ko nga. Alright. Na-check ko na yung mga papel niyo except yung mga kailangan ko pang i-access yung Google Drive nila. Pero hindi ko muna i-release dahil hindi ko pa na-check yung isang section. Okay, others? Besa, Fernandez. Okay. Two to the 81, tama yan, ano? So 4 to the 1. That's 4. 3 to the 4. 81. And then finally, 2 to the 81. And this is too large even for a calculator, so you leave it as that, in that form. And then usually when you encounter squares, you know that you have to use some substitution or conversion, unless it's really very simple, like say log x squared equals 100, right? Then you just take the square root, log x equals 10, plus minus, don't forget. And then you raise, right, as usual. So x equals 10 to the plus or minus 10, two answers. But when there are several terms involved, you have to use conversion. Let t be log 7 base x, log x base 7, and then rewrite, of course, as usual, the equation in terms of the dummy. T squared minus 3t equals -2. And again, quadratic lang naman siya, so just spend a time solving, and then you're almost done after that. Now, don't forget, you have only solved for t, you have to revert. So solve for x. So log x base 7 equals 1. Log x base 7 equals 2. So we have 7 and 7 squared. So 749. So far, so good. Okay ba ang mga level ng problems natin? Hindi naman mahirap, no? So far? Kaya pa? Which part? Miss Jaya.
Sir,
Jaya.
can you explain that example po ulit kung bakit po naging T2? Medyo nalilito lang po ako ng konti.
Bakit naging T yung? Bakit tayo nag-T?
Bakit po yung sa conversion po, opo. Tapos
Kasi
yung T po
para
ba, sir?
mas manageable or mas ano ba to, madaling ma-manipulate, ma-handle kumbaga yung equation. Medyo kasi pwede naman tong diretsahan no, wala nang dumadaan sa T, no? Pero para mas makita natin yung problem at ano ang gagawin, nagtiti lang tayo. Hindi naman laging kailangan magganito, pero yun nga, halimbawa, let's say you have like log, sabihin na natin, ln x cubed minus, sabihin na natin, ln x equals 2. So, hindi to madaling, kumbaga, agad i-manage kung i-solve kung nakatingin ka kay ln x. Kasi bukod sa x, may function ka pa na ina-apply kay x. So, to make this appear less, sabihin na natin, difficult or complicated or complex, nagtiti tayo para nakikita muna natin siya bilang parang algebraic equation lang. And then once na-solve natin si t, gagamitin lang natin yung tawag dito technique, no, to convert to exponential form. So dito, what we did was look at log x base 7 because it's a like term, no, sa dalawang terms, except the right-hand side. So we let t be log x base 7 so that in terms of t, ito siya, di ba? T squared minus 3t equals negative 2. Now, ang maganda dito, pag kinonvert natin siya, mukha lang siyang quadratic. Actually, quadratic siya, no? In t. Okay? Which you know how to solve. And once you solve the quadratic, ito lang dalawa ang makukuha mo. And then, ang maganda dito, magta-transition ka na lang pabalik sa x. So, log t is log x base 7. So, if t is 1, di ba? Log x base 7 is 1. And if t is 2, log x base 7 is 2. And then the method I taught where you just convert this to exponential form. 7 to the 1 equals x. 7 squared equals x. So 7 and 49. Parang pare-pareho lang ang pinapakita ko dito yung mga types of equations na pwede nyong ma-encounter, no, sa quiz, sa finals. Pero yung technique ang mas dapat nyong kumbaga maintindihan dahil maiba man ang problem, kung alam mo yung method, then wala ka nang magiging kumbaga masyadong struggle, no, para mag-solve. So yan yung isang way, by substitution or by converting using a dummy variable. And then here, sometimes you will be given an equation and you have to solve for x. You've done this in high school o kung may math 11 kasi dati, no? Halimbawa, di ba, you have ano ba yung mga familiar equations sa halimbawa, E equals mc squared and you want to solve for c, no? Madali lang. So, i-divide mo, c squared equals e over m. And then you know you have to take the square root and c is positive, speed of light. So, square root of e over m. But paano kung exponential siya, ano, or logarithmic siya? So how do you do that? So solve for x in this equation, y equals ln of the square root of x minus 1. So dahil may ln, expect mo yung magiging sagot mo exponential naman. No? So how do we start? Any suggestion? Naman? Sige nga, paano ko tong kumbaga tawag na sa Tagalog, kakalikutin or Yun na nga siguro lang naisip kong term. How do you manipulate this one? Ano mo siyang gagalawin? Yun. Okay, suggestion. At least may suggestion si Ms. Regalado, no? May idea naman. So, di ba kapag, if you have, let's say, tanggalin natin muna yung ln. Okay, kung ito lang ang tanong, what would you do? Paano mong makukuha yung x? Yes, di ba? You square both sides. Because you need to be able to, like, ano to, squeeze this out, no? Mapalabas mo siya dyan, no? So, titignan mo yung function kung saan siya nakapaloob. Diba? It's inside the square root. And what you do is, you will undo that function. No? Meron lang kasing special symbol. No? Pwede namang ang ginamit nila, SQRT. No? Pero, yan, ano, so, this is actually a function. No? Hindi lang yan symbol. Function yan. Di kagaya kasi ng ln, no? Parang may talagang ano. So, pwedeng nilagay natin SQRT. So, para at least ay function siya. No? So, this is a function. And to undo it, you square. Di ba? The squaring function. Sabihin na natin. And when you do so, malalabas mo si x. And then, masosolve mo si x. Yun yung goal mo. No? So, ang maganda kasi, no, kapag exercises tayo, pag sync, diretso na tayo sa, ano, no, sa technique. Di kagaya kapag dumaan muna tayo sa discussion, ubus oras, and then basic lang usually ang natuturo na. Now, how do we do that to this one? Kung kanina sa square root tayo nag-start, dito may bukod yung x nakapaloob sa isang function na square root, nakapaloob pa yon sa isang function na ln. Diba? Okay, Mr. Besa. Okay, tingnan natin kung tama yan mamaya. So, how do we pull out x, kumbaga doon sa loob? Paano natin siyang palalabasin dyan? Kailangan makalabas siya eh. Oh, yung outermost, ln. So, babaligtarin ko si ln, i-undo ko si ln, di ba? I-reverse ko siya. O i-inverse. Kumbaga, yun na yung pinaka-correct eh. So, what do I apply? Man? Kung ang square root, ini-square, ang ln, anong ginagawa? Para mabaligtad mo siya. Nire-raise sa e. So if the two are equal, di ba? If a equals b, yes, e to the a equals e to the b. Tama? Siyempre, obvious na obvious. Kahit ano pang function yan, as long as a equals b. Tama? If a equals b, then f of a equals f of b. So, if they are equal, then e raised to y is the same as e raised to ln square root of x minus 1. And because e, exponential e, and thus logarithmic e, okay, mawawala si ln. Mapapalabas muna yung square root. Okay, di ba? Again, no, galing yan dito. E to the ln x equals x. Base e, logarithm e. So, exponential e, logarithmic e. And then, again, yon, you can square both sides para mawala yung square root. Square and thus square root. Apply laws of exponents. So e to the 2y. Multiply, di ba? Y times 2. Then x is out. X can be solved. Okay, tama yung sagot. No? Yeah. What the others? Okay, another demonstration before you work out. Sige, maganda. Magpag-isipan nyo muna to kasi different type na ito. Try this out for a minute or two. Oops. Only 14 ang nag-a-attend. Meron kayong 27 o 28. Or 23. So merong mga 9 or so na wala ngayon. Either they're very good students who have studied in advance or natamad sila. I mean, kahit nandito ka na, di ba, tinatamad ka pa, no? Ka-assume na nga, tinatamad ka pa eh. Sa nakakatulog pa nga yung iba, lalo na kapag math yan, ano, or history. Less favorite subject mo yon, no, yung mga yan. So, kung matalino, siguro pwedeng maintindihan. Magaling na talaga. Pero kung hindi, siyempre, suffer siya sa, ano. By the way, hindi kasing dali, yung finals, Kasi ayoko naman na midterms pinahirapan ko kayo agad dahil ma-discourage na kayo noon. But hindi natin, kumbaga, hindi yung level na gaya ng usual na semester, tsaka yung mga face-to-face. Pero dahil nga logs ito, no, expo log ito, kadalasan dito nahihirapan, no, yung mga students. And then may trigo pa tayo. At yung trigo, maganda naman, babawasan na natin yung kaya lang ng time. So medyo mas mabigat ito talaga, hindi sa dami, no, mga aralin, kundi siguro sa difficulty ng mga topics. Ano na sa trigo, kung aabot pa tayo sa identities, proving identities, ano pa ba? Mga, ayoko nang pahirapan naman, ano, pero I try to lighten the load. Yung kailangan nyo lang for calculus, sana yung may inverse trigonometry pa kasi. So, I'll see how I can lighten the load, but at the same time, hindi naman mag-suffer inyong, kumbaga, knowledge pagpasok nyo sa calculus. Although, pagdating nyo naman sa calculus, actually, ang kailangan nyo lang talaga, definition ng inverse. Lang, diba? So, tapos pagkabisado mo yung pag-differentiate, actually, yun rin lang naman. Pero maganda may, ano kayo, diba, foundation. So, i-divide pa po ba yung both sides? Siyempre, kasi nga, i-isolate mo si n. Alright, let's show. So since you are to solve for n, and n is an exponent of r, and you have to be able to isolate it, siyempre, kailangan siya yung hinahanap mo eh. So you have to be able to, sabi nga natin kanina, kung pull it out, ito, bring it down, di ba? Kasi nasa taas siya. No? Parang ganun yung ginagawa natin. No? There's something up there, so how do you bring it down? You use a ladder. Pero dito, siyempre, hindi literal. What do? You try to put other things beside, no, na nakaharang, para si n ay madaling makuha. Anong gagawin natin? Lahat ng terms, ilipat natin sa kabila para si n lang ang matitira. Pero siyempre, exponent siya. So, we need to isolate that term, in other words. No? So, what do? We divide by a, both sides, thus transferring a to the other side. At pag tinignan mo tong next equation, mas madali nang makuha si n. Kumbaga, wala nang nakaharang sa mata mo. No? So, nakafocus ka na lang dun sa n. Ito ang tanong, paano natin ibababa si n? Siguro, kung r to the n yan, madali mong gagawin, ano? Mag-e-n truth ka, no? Pero ang problema sa n truth, paano kung hindi yan integer? Ano bang 2.3 root? No? So, hindi applicable yung square root dito dahil yung n mo hindi sinabing integer or positive man lang. No? So, it's an exponent, right? N is an exponent. So, what's the inverse of the exponential logarithm? Logarithmic function is the inverse of the exponential function. So, mag-a-apply tayo ng logarithm. Anong base? Okay, mukhang tama na yung sagot na yan, ano? Base E. Okay. Sige, mag-base E tayo. Kahit ano namang base, pwede. Kaso, pwede actually base R. Ang problema lang sa base na yan, hindi mo alam kung si R ay whole number, positive or negative. So, mas maganda nga na pumili ka ng base na familiar tayo. Either base 10 or dahil nasa college na tayo at pupunta kayo sa calculus at yan laging base ang gagamitin nyo, Ln. So, we'll take Ln, okay, to bring down, okay, may property na palang madi-discuss dito, no? Sige, discuss ko na lang. Total, aralin nyo rin naman to asynchronously. Madali lang naman yung property na yun. Okay. So, what happens if we apply logarithm? So, we'll logarithm the left-hand side, we'll Ln the left-hand side. So, if A equals B again, ito no? Ln A equals Ln B, di ba? So, Ln L over A equals Ln R to the n minus 1. And does anybody know a property where there's an exponent and you have to sort of put it beside? Alam niyo yan? Sino nakapag-advanced study? Wala nag-advanced study, no? Ito, advice. Alam niyo yung mga dean's lister? They study weeks in advance of the topics. Yung summa cum laude nung time namin, halos QPI niya is 4. Halos perfect, no? Hindi nga lang siya naging valedictorian. Ang naging valedictorian ng time namin, si Ambubuyog, if you're familiar with her, yung blind. No? Yung suma na hindi valedictorian, he studies a semester ahead. So, whether it be theology, whether it be Filipino, kasi naging classmate ko siya, because pati theology, alam na alam niya, no? Sabi ko, ano kaya sikreto nito? Then I realize siguro, mga bookworm itong mga to, no? Sa library nakatambay. Pero yun, ganun siya kagaling. Puro 4 ang mga grade niya. I'm not sure kung lahat talaga. Pero yun yung secret eh. Hindi mo to makukuha na kung kailan i-discuss ng prof, doon ka uupo. Diba? Tapos kung kailan mag-e-exam, doon ka magre-review. So sabi nga, daig ng maagap ang masipag. Masipag ka nga, nagsipag ka the day before. Diba? Cramming pa rin yun. So kailangan niya ng tiyaga, lalo na kapag math yan. No? Alam natin, Waterloo ito ng maraming mga students. But, well, kung masipag ka talaga at maagap ka pa, hindi ito mahirap. No? So, sinong nag-advanced study? Properties of logarithms yon. Mamaya ko i-discuss yun sa next. So, Bigay ko muna dito, logarithm base A, gamitin na rin natin siguro yan, no? R, kasi naka-N, so para ibahin ko konti. Pero yun pa rin yung sinasabi, no? Logarithm of an exponential base A can be simplified by bringing down the exponent beside the logarithm. Okay, yan yung general. Okay, you can bring down an exponent if it's inside a logarithm. Pag nasa loob lang ha. So halimbawa, no? What is ln x cubed? How do you simplify this? You bring down the 3. Okay, bababa lang siya dito. And you can check it, no? Halimbawa, ln 8, no? Ang ln 8, ano ba ang 8? 2 cubed, di ba? According to the property, that's the same as 3 ln 2. No? So you can check your calculator. Yung ln ng 8 is equal to 3 ln 2. Okay? So later on pa, magagamit yung mga ganyan. So, i-apply natin yan, binababa yung exponent kapag nasa loob ng logarithm. Parang gumamit ka lang ng mnemonic, no? You can bring down an exponent inside the logarithm. Parang ganun. So, we'll bring down the n minus 1, this one here. And the equation becomes yan. And yung n mo nasa baba na, no? Yun, kaya tayo nag-apply ng ln, ano? Para mababa si n. Kuha natin. Pwedeng base 10 to. Actually, kung sa high school, di ba? I think nagganito kayo. Log base 10 ba ang ginamit? Tingnan nyo, babaguhin ko lang yung ln. Papalitan ko siya ng log base 10. Pareho pa rin. Iba lang yung base na ginamit. So you can take the logarithm to base 10. Wala nang isusulat na subscript. Okay? And then same rule applies. Baba mo. Pero log R. Parehong base 10 nga lang. Okay, if you're more convenient with log base 10, pwede naman. Pero dahil magkakalculus kayo, I suggest mag-base E kayo lagi pag nagsosolve. Base E lagi. No? ln. So we'll do ln. We'll use ln. Again, ln left-hand side equals ln right-hand side. Bring down. Yan na siya. And then we can solve for n. Pwede natin ibaba agad dito si lnr, di ba? I-divide mo na lang by lnr, pero para walang fraction sana, ano bang mas maganda tignan? Okay. Sige. Kung i-divide natin, as long as tama naman yung sagot, no? Right, fractional yan. So you divide by lnr since you want the n, so you can bring down lnr, di ba? Divide by lnr. Divide by lnr para wala ng lnr sa right-hand side, matitira si n. Switch sides. Then yun, lipat si 1. Yeah, that's the answer. Any question, Don? And you can replay the video or do this first on your own. Okay, now that we have discussed several solutions or methods, can you tell me the approach that you will use, okay, in order to solve this equation for x? In words, what would you do? So observe the equation, especially the right-hand side. May e to the x, may e to the negative x, may denominator pa, plus minus. What do you see? What can you do also? Anyone here? Solve for x. Find x there. A lot of x's. Mahirap i-isolate lahat yan, no? Kasi marami ng pwesto, di ba? Hindi kagaya sa mga previous ano natin, isa lang yung pwesto niya ng n, dito lang, yung kanina pa nga, dito lang, no, sa loob. Ano yun? Ayan, ano? Isa lang yung pwesto niya, pero pagdating natin dito, apat pa nga, no? Nag-appear siya na places. So, hindi na pwede yung basta-basta isolate lang muna. Suggestions. Ano yung mga naturo ko kanina, no? Okay, pwede rin yan, no? Pwede yung way na yan. Simplify mo ba, no? Over, tingnan ko na lang mamaya, no? Pareho yan. Alright, so binaba niya. Yeah, that will help. And notice, there are like, diba, terms. These two are the same terms actually. Saka itong dalawa. And moreover, you know that e to the negative x is the reciprocal of e to the x. So in order to simplify the problem, yun minsan yung ginagawa, di ba? Make a simpler problem. So gagamit tayo ng conversion sa ibang variable. Let t na naman tayo. Yun. Apply na naman siya. Let t be equal to e to the x. But before we rewrite in terms of t, can you tell me how to express e to the negative x in terms of t? Yan, tama, no? Yung mga previous lectures, tinuro ko yan. So yung e to the negative x kasi is 1 over e to the x, di ba? Eh yung e to the x dinesignate na natin na t. So 1 over t. Okay, so in terms of t now, the equation looks like this. T plus 1 over t, yun nga yung sinadjust kanina, no? Ni Mr. Besa, binaba niya yung e to the x. Pero dito yung t yun. Okay? And before we can solve for x, we need to solve for t. And then we can solve for x. Tama? So let's solve for t. And since this one looks algebraic na lang, tapos may fraction ka, pwede kang mag-LCD, multiply by, para walang fraction usually, no? T over t. LCD. So mawawala yung fraction sa loob ng fraction. T squared, di ba? Plus 1. Then t squared minus 1. And then much simpler. And then you cross multiply. So cross y t squared minus y, then ito 1 equals t squared plus 1. Now you're solving for t, so you put all those terms containing t on one side. So transpose ito, then yung walang t, kabila naman. So usually, inuuna ko yung variable bago yung constant. Yan. then we need to factor out para isa na lang yung position ng t or t squared, diba? And then kailangan yung t naka-isolate, so bababa natin yung katabi, divide by y minus 1, diba? So we'll have this. And then, don't forget, kailangan lahat ng possible solutions. So t plus minus, so mag-square root ka na dahil 2 na yan, no? Index 2. But plus minus, dalawa kasi ang root, yung principal tsaka yung negative. And then revert back. Daming steps, no? Revert back na tayo dahil si x na kukunin natin. Revert to x. So, paano nating isosolve si x? That's t. T equals e to the x, di ba? Nakuha natin si t dito kanina sa taas. So, nag-revert na tayo. Kukunin na lang yung x. How? Di ba? Isa nyo ganito ito, nahihirapan pa yung students na yung ganyan. One step na lang yan, tapos na. Yan. E to the x equals plus minus square root of y plus 1. Y minus 1. Anong gagawin? X is an exponent. E is the base. We undo. So we use ln again. Now, ang problema, okay, this is one of the prohibitions kapag, or bawal gawin kapag nag-ln ka, bawal mag-negative, no, yung loob ng ln. Halimbawa, yung ln negative 2, error yan sa calculus. Complex number na yan, actually, sa complex calculus, may value yan. Complex din yung value niya, pero dito, bawal yung negative yung loob ng ln, tsaka yung 0. Walang walang ln yung 0. Try mo yung calculator mo, log 0, ln 0, error, undefined yan. So dahil positive ito, no? Obviously, negative ito. No, plus minus square root of 2. The positive one is the plus square root of 2, and the negative one is the negative square root of 2. So, dahil magiging undefined, actually, tatanggalin na natin pagdating sa next step. Dahil e to the x, remember, yung exponential, laging positive. So, bawal mag-negative. So, dito pa lang, pwede na nating eliminate yung isa. At yan na lang matitira. Then yun. What's ln e to the x is x. It's x lang. Yan, tapos na. All right, there are cases when you are not allowed to use ln. Okay? Dahil sa direction. Makinig na mabuti, ano? Drink some coffee kung parang medyo pagod na mag-isip. Kakatulong yon. Or tea. Okay, suppose this were like that problem a while ago. No? Actually, pwede mo tong gamitan ng ln, gaya ng ituturo ko sa next section. Minsan kasi nalilito yung mga students, bakit minsan nag-ln, tapos minsan kailangan kung ano yung base Yun din. Because when you apply ln here, you can solve for x naman talaga dahil bababa yung x, di ba? Yung property. Binababa yung exponent pag nasa loob siya ng logarithm. Nakakasunod ba tayo? Sumusunod ba tayo, no? So, once na ginawa mo to, distribute mo lang yung ln3, number lang naman yung ln3, no? Magiging ganito siya, 2x ln3, then plus ln3. Sa next ano na yan? So, yung x masosolve mo, no? Dilipat mo to, di-divide mo ng 2 ln3, or hindi muna ngayon. So, in other words, we can apply ln to get the inverse. But, since you're talking of the inverse, so you have to apply the same base kasi. So, halimbawa, di ba, ang inverse ng square root is square. So, pareho sila ng index, no? 2. Ang inverse ng cube, o ang mag-inverse, cube, tsaka cube root, pareho yung index nila, no? 3. So, yun yung parang medyo kailangan lang tandaan dito. When you're looking or when you're being asked for the inverse of an exponential or a logarithmic, kailangan same base ang gagamitin. Ha? Clear ba tayo doon? So, we have y equals 3 to the 2x plus 1. Remember the steps for finding the inverse? Anyone? Sa high school, paano tinuro yung paghanap ng inverse? Anyone? Interchange. Yan, tama. No? Is Santos. Thank you. Now, pwede rin namang solve muna for x in terms of y, then saka ka mag-interchange, pero mas maganda interchange mo na agad. At least may points ka na agad, no? So, interchange x and y. And then solve for y. Okay? Now, since we're looking for the inverse, kailangan mag-base 3 tayo. So, sa halip na base e, base 3. Apply base 3. I-base 3 pareho lang naman. Then what happens now to the right-hand side? Cancel, nagka-cancel ang base 3 logarithm tsaka exponential base 3. Okay, nasundan yon. Then yun na, masosolve mo na yung y. Then call this f inverse. Sensya na sa handwriting na ang hirap magsulat sa tablet minsan. Matulas. Tapos sensitive yung screen pag nahawakan ng palm, no? Yan. So, nakita natin yung inverse natin naka-base 3. Kasi yung original function natin, exponential, pero base 3 siya. Hindi kagaya ng kanina lang, no? Suggested by one of you. Ito, nag-ln talaga ito, no choice dyan. Dito, napansin nyo. Actually, pwede ako nag-base R dito if you want me to show. No, kunyari lang naman, no, pwedeng gawin dito, mag-base R kasi yung R, whole number, no? So this can be solved using base R instead ng nag-ln tayo, pansinin niyo magbe-base R ako. At least nakukuha niyo, no, yung pasikot-sikot na pa. Bababa din yung n-1. Base R cancels base R. No? Pag log tsaka exponential yung isa. Then tapos agad, di ba? Bumaba lang, nagbalik lang yung n-1. Yun lang, naka-base R yung sabot mo. Yung kanina, ang sabot natin, no, naka-ln. Ito yung sagot natin kanina nung ln tayo eh. 1 plus log ln L over A ln R. Equivalent yan actually. Now, I hope I'm not tawag dito, loading you, no? Pero I want you to, I'll demonstrate one more and then yun na, practice na lang konti pa. So isa pa, ito naman, naka-logarithm tayo. So mag-i-inverse ka, hanapin mo yung inverse. So kailangan naka-base 16 yung inverse mo. And then ito madali na, no? Kasi gamitin mo na lang yung diagram, no, na ginagamit. So dito naman naka-clockwise ka. 6 to the y equals this. 6 to the y equals this. And then, sorry, baliktarin ko muna ha. Bago tayo, ulitin ko. Baliktarin muna natin, switch, interchange natin. So magiging, right, this is y equals log base 6 of x minus 2. So x equals log base 6 of y minus 2. And then 6 to the x equals y minus 2. Solve for y. Ayan ang inverse. Call that f inverse of x base 6. Any question? So try nyo to. Kung may tanong, just send your question to the chat box. Inverse lang yan. Find the inverse. Alright, so for Lopez answer. Chua. I'll just write down the solution. 47. Okay, so yeah, call f dot f inverse. If you have any question regarding solution, you may ask. And then let me show the one for number 49. Interchange, solve for y. Okay, so kung walang tanong, you may go. Sa mga may tanong, may 4 minutes pa, pwede pa. Okay, so that's it for this session.
Sir, just to announce po, yung sa kanina pong concern, for those who need to retake some, not retake, but like, for those na may mga na-miss na quizzes, please send me a message along with your full name and your email so I can forward it to sir. Kasi sa Monday yung makeup quiz. And for those who submitted their midterms solution sheet via Google Drive instead of attaching it as a file, please send me a message so I can verify the submission time. Kasi sir will not check it or you will not be graded and you will have to retake the midterms if you submitted it via Google Drive without sir confirming if
Right.
na-submit niyo siya
Okay.
without editing it after the deadline. Yun lang.
Eh, parang may isa lang naman student dalaw. Yung isa nag-confirm na yata. So yung message mo kanina.
Apa.
I think it's Mr. Tubon. Are you here, Mr. Tubon? Wala, no?
I'll message him na lang po if siya.
Na minus 39 siya kasi hindi si Mr. Tubon yan, sorry. He sent it to me late sa kasi 9:39 eh. Can you also tell him I gave him a minus 39 na lang siguro.
Sino po, sir?
Tubon?
Sige po.
Alright, sige, thank you. That's it.
Thank you po, sir.
Sir, can I ask a question about quiz 3 po?
Sorry, wrong checking ba?
Sir, parang yung question 1, hindi like 0 out of 3 kahit
Tinanong ko nga.
bonus.
Sige. Let me
Tapos,
see. Last name is, ano yan? Pangalan mo?
Mendoza
Mendoza.
Isabella.
Okay, tingnan ko.
Tapos yung question 2, parang wrong format yung sinabi ko, pero
Okay,
same
tingnan
yung
natin.
answer.
Math, tingnan mo. Mendoza. Okay, quiz. Parehong quiz 3 yun. Item number 1.
Yes, sir.
Quiz 3 to, no?
Yes, sir, quiz 3.
Did I give 0.5 for the others? I think so. Ayun. 0.5. Then there's another 0.5. Makatulong yun. And then number?
Sir, question 1 and 2.
Question 1 and 2. Yeah. Find the zeros. Oh, isa lang ang zero nito. Dalawa yung binigay mong sagot, no?
Sir, kasi yung sinabi ko like coordinate.
Dapat kasi hindi kasi ang tanong x-intercept, di ba?
Okay. So,
Okay. Pero anyway, I understand. Sige, I'll give you like 2.5. Siguro para at least yung 0.5 mo hindi masyado.
okay. Thank
So just
you,
wait
sir.
for the update. Ayan na, updated na. Check mo na lang. Okay na?
Sir, yung question 1, hindi po ba bonus yan? Sa quiz 3?
Did I say so? Did
I think so.
Sinabi ka,
Sinabi yung bida. Wait, sir, I can find the message.
What is the maximum value? Magkamali ba ako ng compute? Yeah, parang, oo. Oo nga. Teka. Parang wala yata sa choices, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. Minsan kasi yung pag pinipress siguro, minsan nagdi-delay yung internet siguro, kaya hindi nag... Okay, wait. Tingnan ko kung pumasok ka. Look at, tingnan mga updated. What's your score?
Yeah, yes, sir, updated.
Okay na, 16.5, ano?
Yes, sir.
Alright, ayun lang.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Goodbye.